New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. And hello again, dear ones. Rev Robert with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. Happens every Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. We're so grateful you're with us. And Rev Z, we want to say welcome back. Grateful you were with us. Took a week off last week. And I'm going to tell you, you missed a great conversation with Reverend Marie Kirkland of the Living Aligned community. And unless you've gone back and watched it already.
I have not, but I will now. I was traveling here and about. This is the time of the year where I'm zipping around the country. So I hate I missed that. So I'll have to go follow up.
All right, we're going to get it real here, folks. What time of the year is not the time of the year when you go zipping around the country? Yeah, exactly. Folks, this is New Thought Today. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a special guest with us today. If you haven't heard already, Reverend Dr. Michele Whittington. And I have some information we want you to know about her. Her vision for her life is to travel her ever ascending spiritual journey and serve others with love, compassion, and humor as they traveled theirs. I know that to be true in our interactions. With that vision in mind, she became an ordained religious science minister in 1998 and served as senior minister to Creative Living Fellowship, a religious science church community, for almost 22 years. She is also a licensed Art of Feminine Presence master teacher and a certified Real Love coach. In addition, she has authored 2 books, the first of which is From Our Hearts to Yours, Stories and Lessons on Conscious Loving, Conscious Dying, and Conscious Living. This is a deeply personal and touching account of her and her husband's love story that lasted almost 3 decades. It chronicles their journey before, through, and after his terminal illness. And her second book is a co-creation with others and is entitled Heroine Tales. So no woman has to slay her dragons alone. I think that might be alone, and I got a typo there. So no woman has to slay her dragons alone. It contains moving, poignant, and meaningful stories of women who become the heroines of their own stories. When Reverend Michele left the pulpit in 2018, she began a new ministry as the founder of Unleash Your Life Consulting. And in this new expression of her vision, she is a nationally sought-after keynote speaker, offers classes, workshops, retreats, as well as one-on-one mentoring, all amid an We'll just cut that out. No, we don't do post-production here. Let's start that sentence again. This new expression of her vision, she is a nationally sought-after keynote speaker, offers classes, workshops, retreats, as well as one-on-one mentoring, all aimed at empowering those who want to take their feet off the brakes and fully embrace their dreams. Most recently, she became the executive director of the affiliated New Thought Network, a spiritual organization aimed at connecting the New Thought community through consciousness and love. When she's not engaged in all of that, she's living her unleashed life in her home in Phoenix, Arizona, with her little dog Curly. We should have gotten a headshot of Curly.
Oh,
but we didn't do
that. He may show up here any minute. He usually likes to join me when I'm talking on Zoom. So we'll see.
Right on. Dr. Michele, welcome to New Thought Today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. Great to be here. Very honored.
we're very excited to have you here as well. So tell us a little bit, get us started. What did we miss in the intro? What's happening in your ministry? What's exciting in your world right now?
Yeah, well, I didn't realize my bio was so long. So thank you for sharing all of it. There was a lot there. Yes, what's new in my world right now? Everything you just said about me, yes, that's all true. I'm doing all of that right now. I did spend 22 years almost as a pulpit minister, meaning I was the minister of a center in Phoenix, Arizona. Stepped down in 18 and started my Unleash Your Life, which is, I love being able to work with people one-on-one, to be able to offer women's retreats, men's retreats. I just came off of a women's retreat. I had 22 women, and our theme was girls just want to have fun. And that's what we did. We spent 2.5 days just having fun. Karen Drucker was there to give us music, and it was amazing. So I love doing anything that empowers people. That's my mission in life. Not my formal vision, but my mission is to empower people.
Right.
Yeah. And have a good time doing it.
Well, the one thing that I resonated with all of it. The one thing that the highest vibration was this whole idea of bringing back the divine feminine on the planet, right? Because it's been squashed down, stepped on, and a whole bunch of other words I won't even try to mention up to this point, which has put us in an unbalanced situation. And so it's nice to see that the balance of the universe is beginning to be forced, if you will, upon us, right? I'll say that way because we've neglected and ignored it for so long. And now is a time for the last couple of years and definitely going forward for us to be more intentional, for us to be more thoughtful, for us to be more, as something we were talking about earlier, more patient in how we move forward and work better with allowing things to happen as opposed to trying to force things to happen. So I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. I love what you said, and what I love doing is empowering women, specifically empowering women, because many have not been empowered through their lives. And so to bring forth that powerful feminine energy, what does it mean to be feminine and powerful? Because they can be absolutely the same thing, together. And then also support men in bringing, I'm going to say, feminine aspects to who they are in their own amazing, gorgeous, masculine way, to just find that balance so that women have their feminine and their masculine actually developed, but they're presenting it in a feminine way, and men have their masculine and feminine balanced, but they're presenting it in a masculine way. So I love playing with that. I could talk about that for 3 hours, and I won't do that here, but I could. Because I love bringing that balance for both genders, or any gender for that matter, or a non-gender, whatever. It's the qualities. It's the energy that matters. It's not our sexual orientation, our gender. None of that matters. It's the qualities.
Well, and I think that New Thought is a unique crucible in which to do that. That was one of the things just over 20 years ago when I walked in to the New Thought movement. One of the first things I noticed is, wow, there are a lot of powerful female leaders around. And it's not like a traditional church type movement or culture where it's predominantly male and there's a token female in a leadership position here or not. Now, I'm not saying it's majority female, but there were definitely felt like the female representation was much more prevalent, much more, the New Thought is much more accepting to that. We still see all the gamut of the expression, right? But we're getting to a point of learning to embrace and as you're saying, Dr. Michele, balance all of that.
Well, and the interesting thing, though, Robert, is that I think in New Thought traditionally it has been majority women ministers, absolutely. However, and I will only speak for myself in this, as a minister for probably the first 20 years of my ministry, I showed up in a very masculine way and I didn't even know it. I didn't realize it. And let me just qualify masculine. Some negative aspects of the masculine, like the overly assertive to the point of being aggressive, overly driven, just a lot of things that were not the softer side. That I didn't even realize I did, because that's just who I was, until I started studying this feminine work and realized, oh my gosh, I have shown up in it so much in my sort of unhealthy masculine. So wow, I made a huge shift in the last 6 years of my life to take me closer into, and I'm so much happier. I'm so much in harmony with who I am now, when I'm not, bringing forth those not so positive, not so helpful, let's say, not so healthy masculine qualities, and some not so healthy feminine qualities that I like to play too, like, I'm the damsel in distress, or I will manipulate to get what I want. Those are unhealthy feminine qualities that I've learned not to do either. So yeah, it's been a fun experience.
Yeah, that, and that's interesting, because it takes me back to when I think about, I worked on Wall Street for about 13 years during the mid 80s until the mid 90s. And I think about the dress code and everything that was in place for women in that environment. It was very masculine.
Yep.
Yep. And even if they wore a traditional skirt, it was in a suit fashion. You had to have a jacket, and it was, it was very buttoned up and stoic from a male perspective. And, what I hear you saying is for me, I love the yin and yang symbol, because it shows not only the energy moving in a circle, it shows that it starts at a smaller point, gets bigger, and then crashes into another point, and it continually rises and falls on both masculine and feminine side. And when you can get that cycle moving and be aware of it, now we got something going, because I can be aware, as you were saying, when I'm overly this or overly that, whatever it is. And there may be, it might not even be able to be helped, because that's what the frequency is. But if I'm aware of it, I can be more perceptive and more intentional about how I present it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Love it.
I heard I got to be truth, just straight out. I heard the word dress code in there, and every part of me went, "Oi!" because right, it's because it's very easy to come into the world of sexism in that as well.
Yeah,
and I think of, even in some big New Thought churches that I've been privy to some information, there's a much more stringent and strict dress code for the women than there are for the men on a Sunday. What isn't allowed to be worn in church on a Sunday, as a practitioner, as a minister, as a representative of this philosophy, so on and so forth. And it's, now I trust we're doing away with that, and the other side of it all is, could you have succeeded in that environment if it wasn't for the fact that, Michele, you wore a more masculine wardrobe to be recognized, and all the things that go along with that? So we've got a little bit of both sides of it. We've got the sexism piece playing into it, and we've got this not just sexism, but the male dominance of, this is the way you get business done. And now we have an opportunity, I think, to redefine all of that.
Oh, so many things are being redefined in today's world. This is just one of them.
and when you start looking at Gen Z, they're getting the most hype for this. In terms of dress code, my son just started working, and I said, let me take you out and get you this, that, and other. They said, oh no, that's not the thing no more. We don't do that no more. I don't necessarily need a traditional collared shirt that's buttoned up. I need to look presentable. I need to, and in cases, if I'm matching my client, I will match them. But in an everyday environment, that's not required. And so when we look at the hairstyles and the dress and everything that's coming with the younger generation or the becoming leaders, that whole model, as we talked a little bit about before, the whole model of spirituality in a church center, mosque, temple, however people choose to recognize their place of worship, is going to change and is changing, not only dramatically, but very fast.
Yeah. If I don't have to put on a collar to go to work, why do I have to put on a suit to go to church? Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Folks, if you're wondering what you're stumbled into, this is New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. We get together every Tuesday afternoon and have these types of conversations with existing and emerging leaders in the New Thought movement to look at what's coming and where we're headed and a whole bunch of all that kind of stuff. So our guest today is Reverend Dr. Michele Whittington. She's out of Phoenix, Arizona. And Dr. Michele, before we go on our first break, we want to introduce also a little bit of the affiliated New Thought Network, because we mentioned it in your bio, and you are now the CEO of a major global New Thought organization, and we want to make sure everybody knows about it. So tell us a little more.
Love to. So yes, the affiliated New Thought Network is a 30-year-old New Thought organization and of an umbrella organization for any specific or non-specific New Thought community, whether it's CSL or Unity or Divine Science or all of the kind of the independent New Thought centers, organizations, as well as just I don't want to say just to minimize anything, but individuals who practice New Thought. So we are this beautiful amalgamy of individuals who believe in New Thought principles and want a place to come to be nurtured, to be loved, to be supported, and not be told what to do. I think that's one of the things that's beautifully unique about our organization, which we refer to as ANTON, Affiliated New Thought Network. We are this affiliation of all these individuals and communities where we're supported. Anton has lots of programs to support its members, and yet we don't tell you how to run your life or to run your ministry, whatever it looks like, whether it is a church, a center, an organization, or you're doing your own thing. So I became the executive director. Thank you, Robert, for making me the CEO. I love that. We'll see that if that happens later. But right now, I'm the executive director. I've been doing it since just February of this year, and I do it in addition to my other work as well. And it's just really it's a beautiful organization. I've been a member of the organization since 1999 or something like that. A very, very long time. So my heart is with it. And I love the things that we do. I love the way we support the coming together of all New Thoughts. We don't care where you came from. We don't care where you can be a minister of a CSL center as well as an Anton member. You can be a minister of Unity Worldwide Ministries and a member of Anton. We don't care. We're happy to have you be a part of us wherever you're on that flow or spectrum of ministry or individuals as well. Let's see. So yeah, bringing New Thought together is our vision through consciousness and love, and to really support those who choose to be members of our organization.
I think those that have watched this program know that I'm a huge fan of Anton now in the past year. And a big part of that is the work that you've been doing and how you've been supporting the Thought Media Network. And it's in consciousness and love. It's like every time I hear that, I'm like, oh, that's a nice, good feeling.
Yeah. Well, and the good thing about it that just struck me as you were talking, Doc, was this idea of a 360-degree pie that gets sliced up, CSL, Unity, Divine, this, that, the other. And this pie pan, if you will, to substitute that for the umbrella, gives us a chance to bring the whole pie back together again. Because when we look at these teachings and we look at the leaders, most of them, if not all of them, will cross-pollinated some kind of way. Between the Fillmores and the sisters down in Colorado Springs, down in Durango, Colorado Springs, Ernest Holmes, they all were taught by or followed someone from the bigger pie, and it's now time to put that pie back together. And if we need to slice it, we'll slice it again. But right now is the time to come back and get it together and see how we cross-pollinate one another. And one, as always, one organization is excellent at this, another one is excellent at that. Stop duplicating. Let's figure out how to utilize our talents and gifts. And then if we need to go back out, we'd go back out.
One thing that's very exciting to me that's coming up next year is the Parliament of World Religions, which is happening in Chicago in August of next year. And through the beautiful work of Barbara Fields of the Association for Global New Thought, she is spearheading all of New Thought to have a presence at that Parliament. So I just put the word out right now. Please, if you're interested in that, come. It's the first week, I think, of August in Chicago, and come be a part of the New Thought delegation. And it's just beautiful because the leadership of all the organizations, all the slices of the pie are coming together to create a unified voice at this Parliament. Yeah, which is, I think, a pretty cool thing.
Pretty cool.
Very cool. And we're going to be there.
Yeah. New Thought Media will be there. Anton will be there. Yeah, we'll be there.
Exactly. And that's part of it, folks, right? Is being willing to show up to have these conversations. The New Thought philosophy has grown in wondrous, amazing, and wild ways. And we were in Chicago earlier this year for the INTA Festival Congress, where it was really obvious. There's only a few places where we differ. And it's not even that we differ in consciousness. It's just that we differ in the form. We're all teaching the same thing. It just outpictures a little differently. And that's the beauty of New Thought. It'd be a pretty boring place if we all got exactly the same thing, the same way.
And it's the natural flow. If I have something wrong with my foot, I'm not going to go to a hand doctor. I could, but I might not get the best treatment, if you will, for my ailing foot if I go to the hand doctor. Now, there'll be some familiarity and some crossover, but if you have problems in one area, you need to seek out that particular thing. And we know there's a variation in how we show up, as you said, in form. And so we have to begin to understand that. And one thing I like about this that I've heard some ministers mention before, there is no competition in God, right? I can't outperform God. I don't care what I do. So if we're all really here for God, it's not about competing. It's about amplifying that presence. It's about spreading that spirit so that everybody gets a taste of it and say, "Ooh, I think I want some more of that."
Yeah, exactly. Hey, folks, this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. We need to take a quick break, let a couple of our sponsors say hello, let our guests take a quick break for a glass of water and a drink and wet the whistle. We'll be back in just another moment or two. Stay with us on the New Thought Media Network. This is New Thought Today. We'll be right back. And we're back with more of New Thought Today here on the New Thought Media Network. I'm Rev Robert Brzezinski, my co-host Reverend Elzia Sekou, and our special guest, Reverend Dr. Michele Whittington, coming to you from Colorado, and Reverend Michelle's over in Arizona. So you're still a little bit warmer than we are. We're on the precipice of saying goodbye to the sunshine for the next 4 months and living in the gray clouds and the cold rain and snow. You get a little bit warmer weather there for a little bit longer, I think.
We are just now being able to go outside again and enjoy the weather outside because it's not so darn hot. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes. Yeah. And just on the weather tip, I can't believe there's a hurricane watch over on the east coast of Florida coming through the end of the week. I mean, talking about the universe doing its thing. It's doing its thing right now for sure.
Yes. Prayers for Florida. And guys, we did neglect to say it. It's Tuesday. If you haven't gotten out and voted yet today, just turn off this show right now and go. We'll forgive you. You can catch the replay, but make sure you get out there and vote today. So, all right. So, Reverend Michele, one of the big pieces of this program really is to explore the ideas that are coming forward in New Thought leaders for how New Thought supports the future evolution of humanity, how New Thought can show up. What is our unique gift to humanity as we move forward from where we are? We have a rich and storied history, and we've got all kinds of programs about our history on the network, folks, but we really want to kind of focus in and would love to hear some of your vision, what you see, what's coming forward for you as how New Thought stays relevant moving into the future.
Those are pretty juicy questions, Robert. big, juicy questions. What comes to me initially is it's a very personal thing that I want to talk about first. I think we have got amazing principles in New Thought, being espoused for well over 100 years, being taught well over 100 years by now, not just New Thought. It's our New Thought principles are out there everywhere. They're everywhere. You pick up a self-help book today and you read about New Thought principles, whether it says anything about New Thought at all. So our principles are everywhere. The question is, and this is where it gets personal, how are we really applying them? I know as a minister of a church for almost 22 years, I watched, and this isn't a criticism or a judgment, it's just an observation. I watched people give great lip service to our teachings. They could quote our founders, they could quote, up and coming new leaders, in our movement. They could quote self-help gurus. But when push came to shove, when the what hit the fan in their lives or in our world, all those principles went out the window. There was fear, there was doubt, there was negativity, there was all these spinning in panic. I watched it happen so many times. I watch it still in the work I do today. Because I may not be a pulpit minister, but I'm still teaching New Thought. I see it in my clients that I work with. I see it in my students, in my classes. So I think where we have to go is to help people really embody these principles. I heard on Anton, we have the last Thursday of every month, we have a thing called Thought Leader Thursday, and we always bring a thought leader and have some dialogue and beautiful conversation. And our last month, we had a speaker, Dr. James Mellon, who said, what is your AEP? Now I'm going to get the A. Assumed, that's not quite it, but automatic, that might be it. Already established.
Perception?
No, it's like your foundation. Your already established premise. I'm going to say that. That might not be quite it, but that's close enough. Already established premise. What is my premise for living? Is my premise for living that I am the divine in expression, and therefore all is unfolding absolutely perfectly?
Right.
Or is it, yeah, I give lip service to that, but then when things happen, oh my God, life, the sky is falling. So we need, as New Thought followers, to bring it in so it is in us. So even when life happens, and life happens. I lost my husband, my most glorious partner of 30 years. He made his transition 4 years ago. Life happens, pain happens, stuff occurs globally, locally, in our own lives. How do we respond to that? And it's not about the other thing I think New Thought is absolutely moving and needs to move further, is it's not about spiritually bypassing. In other words, oh, it's all God, it's all good. That is true, but right now I'm in grief. Right. So it's about being able to hold both of those. That, yes, I'm in grief, I'm in sadness, I'm in whatever, because what's happened. I also know at the core of my being that all is unfolding as it should. So that's the first place I think we as followers of New Thought need to go. It's a very intimate and personal thing.
Yeah. You bring up something that I think is very, very important here. And when I first came into New Thought, I run into teachings that say that put everything on a scale. And love is a higher vibration than grief or suffering or guilt or anger or resentment or any of the other experiences we have as a human being. And that in its very nature is spiritual bypassing. Because now we're saying that all these things are not valid. They're bad. They're don't do that. When what I hear you saying, and what I truly believe as well, is we have to move through, we have to experience the grief and the suffering. And in times we have to experience the anger. Now, we also talk a lot on this program about the spiral dynamics and living on the spiral, and slipping into uncontrolled rage or anger is definitely a lower on the spiral, but it doesn't make it any less valid of an experience to our spiritual evolution. If I stay there, I got a problem. If I stay there, I'm probably going to have a problem.
Right.
But it's not necessarily bad just to be there.
Yeah. So one thing that I learned firsthand when I lost my husband was the power of giving myself permission to grieve in the moment, how I needed to, for however long I needed to. Because when I did that versus trying to say it's all good, it's okay, I'm fine, life is unfolding perfectly, which it is, but in the moment I didn't feel like it. Giving myself permission to feel all those uncomfortable, there's not a bad feeling and a good feeling. They're all feelings. Some just feel better than others, right? So allow myself to feel the feelings that don't feel good. When I gave myself permission, they dissipated. Now, it may have taken a day, even 2 or 3 days for them to dissipate, but they did. And the more I gave myself permission to feel them, the quicker they started dissipating. So if I'm angry, if I'm upset, if I'm fearful, if I'm any of those things, it's not bad. They're feelings. Allow yourself. And when we truly allow ourselves, not to like spin in that downward spiral. I had a mentor once, an Anton founder, say, when you're going through hell, keep going, don't stop and build a condo. But we can stop and feel the feelings. And I think when we really give ourselves permission to feel our true, authentic feeling, they fade. the ones that aren't supportive of, our forward movement, and, living in fear, living in grief forever, living in guilt, none of those support our evolution. They just don't. But when we give ourselves permission to feel them, they dissipate, and then we can move forward to those higher vibrational places. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, make perfect sense. And it brings to mind to me a thought, an idea that I just had a new epiphany on today in terms of the divine plan or divine unfolding. We use that term a lot, and I had a better understanding of it today, right? Because I thought of it in the sense of a seed, right? When a seed, there is a divine plan within each seed, whether it's an apple seed, orange seed, and there are certain things, as you were saying, that in every stage of that seed's divine plan unfolding, it has to reconcile the opposite. It has to reconcile being just a seed, and then it has to reconcile the seed being in the soil. That's two opposites, right? So now I got contrast, right? And so for the divine plan to unfold itself, it has to have that pressure. It has to have that contrast. And so when we can begin as a new thought organization to teach people how to first find out what kind of seed there is, if you will, so they can understand what their divine plan is, and then teach them to be able to stand in the fire, right? Because there's the whole story of there's certain pine cones that the trees won't sprout until the pine cone has been under some heat and a fire that causes it to burst open. And when it does that, it reconciles that and keeps going. And so as I look at the future of New Thought, I think our primary issue is going to, a challenge and charge is going to be, how do we teach people to understand who they are, which will in itself tell you what your divine plan is, because I'll know if I'm an orange seed or an apple seed or a corn seed. And then there's certain, there's different times of growth, different nutrients that are needed. And I'm not going to get mad at the corn because it's growing faster and putting out more ears than if I'm an apple. And so that's where we have to go.
Love it.
And I'm going to tie this in to continue the analogy, if you will, and add in the non-competition point.
Yes.
Because if I identify somebody that's hanging around my community and my organization, what I'm doing, and we're all apple seeds and they're an orange seed, I need to send them down to your farm where the ground is better for orange seeds.
Yes.
And hey, if you're an actor, and head on over to James Mellon's church. That's where actors hang out and demonstrate this philosophy. If you're a little more of an introvert, or you want to work solely on depth of consciousness, head on over to this community. If you want to play in the media world, head on over to this community. Yeah. And that way we can all start working together. Yeah. To stop saying, oh, here, go figure out who you are and then come back and tell us how you want to help us be what we are. Let us help you figure out who you are, so that you can go do what you're supposed to do with whoever it is you're supposed to do it with.
Yeah. Which is interesting, because one of Ernest's famous statements was, don't take my word for it. Go practice these principles in the laboratory of your own life. You got to figure out what's going on, and then you can express. Now when you come back, you've got that, so now we can have a deeper, more rich conversation, because you know what you are, so to speak, and you've tried these principles and had certain successes and failures, and now we got a place to work from.
I'm just hoping we're not all pine cones, because that'll be one hell of a forest fire to get us all growing and going.
Yes.
We might need some poppy seeds in here somewhere too.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's an interesting time. We were talking about this in the pre-show, right? It's a very, very interesting time, not just because of COVID, but because of the COVID called everybody's bluff. Yeah. really, if we're in a card game, COVID came forward and said, okay, what do you got?
Yeah.
Do you really have community, or do you just have a bunch of people showing up to a building? Do you really have a virtual outreach to your community, or are you just dropping a camera in the rafters and letting people peek in the back window at what you're doing? And the last few years has really driven, I believe, innovation in the world of New Thought to look at things and say, okay, how do we do this better? Because there's no question we got a great philosophy.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we're going to be pushed to collaborate more as one of the things. Here in the Denver metro area, I don't know, we have between centers and teaching chapters and this, that, and the other, there's got to be at least 15, 20 different organizations.
Yeah.
But very infrequent do we get together and do the thing together, right, so to speak. And we have to begin to do that, I think, for one, just to show that, hey, no matter how the principle, as you were saying earlier, Dr. Michele, no matter what the thing looks like, the principles are the foundation that all of this is built on. And so now we can begin to show people that this principle can be practiced in many different ways, because you see different organizations coming together, focusing on different things, all based on the same principle. Now people may feel a little more impetus to say, oh, well, I think I might fit better here. Oh, no, I was there. It helped me, but it didn't work. Now I can go over here, because they're all working together anyway.
Mm. I love the idea. I love the idea of more communities working together toward a common mission, and moving away from the competitive silo of, oh, I like the way this person dances across the stage, or I like the way they say it, and as long as we stay centered on a celebrity model of some sort, I don't see how New Thought continues to grow, not in a healthy way.
And one of the things I think we have to look at, and I have only questions here, not answers, but I love the idea of asking the question and then being open to the answers. Mm-hmm. And that is, as we're talking about spiritual communities, churches, centers, that model, it has to change. We were talking about this in the pre-show, and we've known this for a long time, that it has to change. And I think COVID accelerated that change. What does that change look like and mean for our communities? But the brick and mortar, one talking head for 20 minutes, that's a joke, 25, 30, 45, however long it is, right? That model doesn't work anymore. And, the younger people, they definitely don't want that. So we have to, and I don't want to say figure out, because it's not about figuring it out. It's about being open to what is needed. Robert, you said this in our pre-show. What is arising as the need, and how do we serve that need? So a question that as a minister, I ask this question all the time. How do we get more youth into our ministry? How do we grow? How do we do this? How do we attract people? Those aren't the right questions, I don't think, anymore. I think, how do we serve? Yeah. How do we serve is the question. And what form does that service take? What forms does that service take? I don't think it can take one form anymore. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of questions about what New Thought as organizations, as spiritual centers, what is that going to look like in the next 10 years? I don't know the answer to that, but I know it will change. And I think as long as we who are in leadership can stay open to the questions, we will be guided, because we are source. We are the divine expression. And so we will know what to do when the time is right to know it.
Yeah, that's one thing. One thing that Robin and I keep kicking the can around with is, one of the things we think that can feel that or begin to feel that is we have to become more of, I know in growing up in the South, the church was the community center, right? We'd go there for church, but they had basketball teams and softball teams and, the vocational Bible Sunday schools doing this. So they provided a service for parents, and it was a community center. It just wasn't, you just didn't go get religious training or spiritual training. You can go learn to play basketball, or you can learn to play. And so now, since the younger people are geared in their families, the kids, and now more than ever, they got soccer and basketball and travel teams and all of that. Traditional Sundays are being taken up by those kinds of things. So as an idea, what if churches and centers begin sponsoring basketball teams and soccer teams? You may not have them in the building, but you got contact with them now, and you can have classes and you can do different things, and it becomes a part of a way of life. It's a living thing. It's not something I get prepared for on Sunday. I go home and I don't do anything else with it. But if I go on Sunday and we got soccer practice on Tuesday, well, I got to go back to the church, or I got to go back to the center. And while I'm waiting for the kids, I can either watch them, or maybe I go and take a class or go read a book or something.
Yeah.
Love that one. One of my personal favorite. I have this idea. We have, how many communities have churches, or churches and communities have a kitchen attached to their building that is completely underutilized? And the old model says, come and sit through our talk for a half an hour, and then we'll have potluck and you can get something to eat. Well, let's flip that around. Come for dinner, stick around for the talk. And if you don't want to, and if you want to just come for dinner and you don't want to stay for the talk, that's fine, because you're going to interact with the community. You're going to interact with the people. You're going to interact with the philosophy, whether it's a one-way direct, and especially be considering you won't be expecting it. It's not like, oh, now I got to go sit, listen to this guy talk for 20 minutes before they'll feed me. Come for dinner. Come and have dinner.
Yeah. And
we're going to cook up a big old vegetarian meal every Wednesday night for dinner. And if you like what you had for dinner, stick around. You might like what you hear afterwards too. There's new models that I think are so right in front of so many people. But it seems to me that more and more New Thought communities are a little less willing to experiment sometimes. We seem to have this idea that we're the best kept secret in the world, and if you could just come listen and learn our secrets, we wouldn't have to do anything different. We could just keep doing what we've always been doing.
Yeah, it's like we tell our community members, think outside the box, but us as an institution, we're not thinking outside the box. We're gonna keep doing things the way we've been doing, even though they're
sure to be in the room on Wednesday night. Yeah. don't forget to be in this room on Sunday.
Yeah.
Gosh. Hey folks, we're at New Thought Media Network. This is New Thought Today. It's a conversation that happens every Tuesday afternoon, 2 p.m. Mountain Time. We're going to take another quick break, let ourselves grab a quick drink of water, but we're not going away just yet. We'll be back in just a minute or so with our final thoughts and wrap this up with Reverend Dr. Michele. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Yes. Thank you, dear ones, for being a part of the New Thought Media Network and our financial family. If you'd like to get started as a committed giver or one of our organizational sponsors, please head on over to the website, ntmedia.org. Click on the donate button or send us an email, info@ntmedia.org. We can get you more information about being a sponsor and or donor. All right. Before we go today, folks, we always like to make sure we wrap up our explorations with what we call final thoughts. And I feel like I want to go first this week, so we'll save Rev Z for the final thought. But for me, well, number one, vote. It happened already. As soon as this program is over, go vote. I dropped my vote in the box yesterday, and I thought to myself, if I'm doing this and dropping off my wife's vote at the same time, does that make me one of the 2,000 mules? I trust. But I want to say thank you, Reverend Michele, for being with us. What a great conversation. And it's conversations like this, folks, that lead us to what's coming next. We don't pretend to have all the answers. We don't pretend to have any of the answers, but it is through these explorations that the answers reveal themselves and the way forward is made known. And what I am confident of is there is a path for new thought. There is a path of new thought leading us all forward. And I'm really excited to see where it's taking us. So. Yeah. Reverend Michele, for you, final thoughts.
Well, I was, as you were giving us the opportunity to have a final thought, I thought of a quote by Meister Eckhart, who was a mystic of a long time ago, who said, "Let God be God in me." And I think that's, if I want you to think of anything and take anything away from what I've said today, is bring these principles of new thought into your life in such a way that you know that God is who and what you are, that each of us is a manifestation of the divine. And so let God be God in you.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
And so now, Doc, you've woke up a poem in me that goes like this. I'd rather see a sermon than to hear one any day. I'd rather one would walk with me than just to show the way. The eye is a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but examples are always clear. And I think that's what we have to begin to do as practitioners and leaders of this. We have to be the example, show them how to go through good times and bad times and still triumph on these principles that we know that we're each on a divine plan that's unfolding exactly just like the orange seed or the apple seed is. And we just have to determine which seed we are and allow it to grow.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. Reverend Dr. Michele, thank you for being with us. I hope you can come back again sometime.
Happy to. Yes, please.
All right. For everybody else, thanks for being with us. Please stay tuned here on the New Thought Media Network. We've got Spanish language programming coming up this evening. I want to make sure I get my time right, at 7 o'clock, and our evening prayers at 8:15. Until next time, we wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.